So we're now in Daf Lamed Hey Amud Beis, very close to the end of the fourth parak of Maseches Beitsa, and we're just trying to tie up some loose ends here. Ironically, about fruit that hasn't quite been a finished product, and sometimes it's just as simple as a raw fig. Which, if you're into raw figs, it's a finished product. But if you want to do something more with your raw fig, which like they used to do, make jam or different things that are like some kind of a mixture, so then it's not yet a finished product. Then it won't be chayiv meiser till you've reached that stage where it's a finished product. So basically, it has to reach the place where you're going to store it and be a finished product. That would be the ultimate form of finished product and chayiv and meiser. But we're seeing in the sugya many things that could bridge that gap. Instead of bringing to the chutzner, you can have Shabbos, right? That we said right away in the beginning that a fig that was set aside for Shabbos is already chayiv and meiser. There it's a finished product, but still normally we need the finished product to be brought into the courtyard or the storage area. And here, it wasn't yet brought in. So the chiddush was that Shabbos can overcome that missing element. In fact, you didn't bring it into the courtyard. Shabbos will replace that. So the Gemora went through a number of other possibilities, things that maybe even if the fruit wasn't a finished product, but you did have Shabbos or you did have other things, perhaps they can replace the need for a finished product and make it chayiv and meiser at an earlier stage. So right at the end of that thought process, and even though we've seen a number of opinions, but we're finishing with Rabbi Yochanan, and it kind of has that feeling like we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan because we're finishing with Rabbi Yochanan, and he lays down the rule. He says, no, basically he's saying, if it's an unfinished product, it will not be chayiv and meiser, no matter what the situation. And he goes through a list. Doesn't matter if it's Shabbos, if it's in the courtyard, if it's something you've taken truma from that fruit already, or the last one was mekach, where you made a purchase of that item. All those different things, which there are opinions out there that once you've done those things, they are chayiv and meiser, regardless of whether it's finished or not. But Rabbi Yochanan says no. I know there are opinions out there to the contrary, but I'm telling you my psak, and the way the Gemora is dealing with Rabbi Yochanan, it seems like that is the true psak. But of course, we'd have to look it up in the halacha. Probably the Rambam would be the place to look to find these halachas. And he's saying no, even regardless of whether it's Shabbos or in a chutzner or any of these things, still, if it's not a finished product, it's not chayiv and meiser. Right? As we say, no tiki, no washi. So the Gemora seems to be bothered without having said it explicitly, implicitly. Why did he list all these four things? Because all he really had to do to set us straight is give us the rule. His rule is a very simple rule. If it's a finished product, then it can be chayiv and meiser. If it's obviously the other condition is met, that's brought into a storage facility. But if it's not a finished product, then no matter what, it's not chayiv. All he had to do was just say the rule, and we would have certainly understood, and he would have made the halacha clear. So he didn't need to say, even if it's Shabbos, even if it's this, that, and the other, he doesn't have to go through all of that. Because if he holds nothing helps except for being a finished product, then that's all he has to tell me. Why does he list all these different possible things that don't work anyways? Why go through a whole list of things that don't work? Right? It's like you get home for dinner and your wife asks you, what do you want to eat? You say, well, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. She's like, okay, now what do you want? Right? Don't you waste my time with what you don't want. Don't tell me what doesn't work. Shabbos doesn't work, this doesn't work, that. If you just tell me the rule, I need a finished product, then I'll know you need a finished product. So the Gemora understands that if Rabbi Yochanan went through a list, and he didn't just say a simple rule, but he complicated matters by mentioning all these havaminas, all these possible things that could have overcome the limitation of the rule, then it must be that there are opinions out there that are very strong opinions, which Rabbi Yochanan felt, if he doesn't talk about it, someone might claim he didn't know about it. And maybe if he would have known, he would have given in to that opinion. He would have given in to Hillel or all these people we're going to bring up. So instead, the Gemora says that's why he listed these things, to show you he did know about them. He did know about Hillel, he did know about all the other opinions, and despite all of that, he poskened the way he did. So that gives a strength to his opinion that is more likely that we'll posken like him now that he's been like transparent with us, as it were, by telling us, I know about all those other opinions, and I'm going to even list them for you, but they don't help. It seems to me, but the real test would be looking it up in the Rambam, seeing how the Rambam poskens. In any event, so, but, for example, even if we say like him regarding Shabbos, that Shabbos doesn't help if it's not finished product, but if it is a finished product, Shabbos will help in what respect, like we saw at the beginning of the Sugya. That even if it hasn't been brought into the Chatzar, it still could be Chayav in Meiser much earlier on, if you have a Shabbos or something like that. So these things aren't powerful enough to overcome the fact that it's not a finished product. You need a finished product, but once it's a finished product, Shabbos might overcome one of the other limitations of not yet being in the storage facility or whatever. So we should just remember that even though this seems like he's saying Shabbos doesn't have a power, but that has to be understood within the context of what we've already learned. It doesn't have the extra power, like Rava originally asked the question. We know that Shabbos has a certain ability to overcome the fact that it's not in the Chatzar. Will it also have an ability to overcome the fact that it's not a finished product? He himself was aware that maybe Shabbos has more power, maybe Shabbos doesn't have as much power. There's a question that he raised. And even though Rav Nachman in the middle of the Sugya did answer, and we went on and on about could we bring a proof from our Mishnah or not. That's how we got into this whole thing. In the end of the day, we're now with Rav Yochanan, who's laying down the law that despite everything we've said till now and all the various opinions that have surfaced, you need a finished product. Nothing to talk about. But we'd be more interested. Why did he mention Shabbos? Why did he mention this, that, and the other? So we go through the list. We say, he mentioned Shabbos, for example, to tell you that we don't pass him like Hillel. Because there is a Shitas Hillel that if it's Shabbos, and even though it's an unfinished product, it's Chayiv and Meiser. Right? Shabbos is so chashuv, it makes a food that you want to eat on Shabbos, Chayiv and Meiser, even if it's unfinished product. That's what Hillel held. Why did Rabbi Yochanan not paskin like Hillel? We normally paskin like Hillel. Because Rabbi Yehuda, who told us about this shita of Hillel, he made it clear that when Hillel paskin like that, it was la'atzma.
For himself.
For himself. As if maybe even Hillel didn't want anyone else to follow his psak. Sometimes that happens. Someone says, I'm paskin that way for myself, but not for other people. Right? Sometimes people paskin a chumrah for themselves and don't paskin that way for other people. Because the truth of the matter is, if you say something's chayiv and meiser, it's a chumrah. Why is that a chumrah? Does that mean I can't eat it now until I meiser it? If you say it's pater and meiser, then I can eat it as we said, a snack, even though it hasn't been meiser. So it's a chumrah to go like Hillel. So you could say Hillel was machmer on himself. But anyhow, in his opinion, that Shabbos would do that, would overcome the limitation of being an unfinished product. By saying la'atzma, he also implied, according to the Gemora, according to Rashi, that the other Rabbanim of the generation did not go like him. So it's not just Hillel, and we normally pass like Hillel. It's Hillel against all the other Rabbanim, all the Chachamim, and as great as Hillel is, we still wouldn't pass like him, keneged the Rabbi, keneged all of the other Chachamim. Which we don't usually have that situation, but here we have it. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan said Shabbos will not overcome the fact that it's an unfinished product. He was like telling us, I know that Hillel holds differently, but in this respect we don't go like Hillel, for the various reasons we said. Then he said the same thing about chatzar. If you brought into a chatzar an unfinished fruit, even though there are opinions, like Rabbi Yaakov, or we saw it before Rabbi Yeshua as well, that it was chayv and meiser, because just being in a chatzar is enough. But Rabbi Yochanan Paskin, like we originally understood, you need both. You need in the chatzar, but you also need it to be a finished product. And that would be like Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemora says, and that's how Rabbi Yehuda Nasi obviously Paskin by only mentioning that opinion in his Mishnah, Rabbi Yetzi. Okay, then we had a last middle of the road case of Truma, which we had seen already, that Rabbi Eliezer holds that if you took Truma off a pile of fruit that was, let's say, out in the field, an unfinished product, but you decided to take Truma anyways, and you gave it to the Kohen, although we said before, just taking it off the pile is enough to have done the mitzvah of being Nafshi Truma. And now that you did that, the rest of the fruit that's left, according to Rabbi Eliezer, becomes chayiv and meiser. Somehow by taking out the truma, you gave a psak on the whole pile that it's a more chashuv pile, more finished pile than it would look like. So therefore, he said that's enough to make it chayiv and meiser. But the Rabbanan say clearly they're cholek, so that's what Rabbi Yochanan says as well. And the last case that the Gemora says is related to what Rabbi Yochanan said was the case of mekach, where you bought a fruit, let's say that's an unfinished product, and it hasn't been meisered yet, and the fact that you bought it, you're showing how much you care for that item, and in a sense you've now brought it into your domain, so maybe that's like bringing it into the chatzar even, or whatever. Maybe that could give it enough cheshivos to be chayiv and meiser, just the very fact that you bought it. So on that we say no. Rabbi Yochanan told us no, and he's, in this respect, he's going like a Beitsa or a Mishnah in that we find regarding this issue. And that's what we're working out. Okay, so let's start with that. So it's about 7 lines down at the end of the line, mekach. See it?
Here is Mecca.
No, you're reading from maybe 4 lines down from where I wanted to start. And Jack was looking at it later.
Another Mecca?
There's another one a few lines up.
Material.
Yeah, so the word material, forget about. That's the end of the previous sentence. Now, mekach is a new thing. Because Rabbi Yochanan, it's the last of the things he mentioned, that even if it's Shabbos, even if it's this and that, it's still not chayiv and meiser if it's an unfinished product. The last one that he mentioned, that even if it has a certain mile, it's not chayiv yet, is mekach. He said even if it's a mekach, it's not chayiv and meiser if it hasn't become a finished product. So we're now discussing that issue. What's an example of a mekach that you would have thought maybe makes it chayiv and meiser, but it doesn't? So we bring a support actually for Rabbi Yochanan. Unlike the other cases where we right away told you who he was arguing against, here the Gemora starts out with the support of Rabbi Yochanan. So we say kiddush anan, as we learn in a Mishnah, or some have a version on the side instead of kiddush anan, kiddush ani, as we learn in a Beitsa. So one way or the other, it's either a Mishnah or a Beitsa. Rashi also, by the way, has the version of Kiddush Anan, which is interesting. Anyhow, so what does the halacha say? Who would like to read? Surely.
Mekach Kiddush Anan Bakri Torah Mishnah. Rokech Ta'ini Ma'am Haaretz. When he buys figs from an Am Haaretz.
Correct.
U'makam Shorov B'nei Adam Dorsi. The person, most people are tramping around it.
What does that mean?
And they're making it to one or something.
No, here we're talking about ta'ini.
Big that jam.
Right. So we mentioned before, some people eat ta'ini raw, some people turn it into jam, and now we're finding out that there are some places where most people do not eat it raw, they rather change it into jam. So once it's in that kind of a place, that changes the halacha.
Yes.
Why? Because if you will not be eating it raw, or most people in your area won't be eating it raw, what does it turn out to be?
Turns out to be
No, but in terms of our discussion now, that will give it a status of what? What happens if I have a ta'ena that I'm not really going to eat it right now raw, I'm going to wait to make it into jam? How do I call that ta'ena?
unfinished product.
Right, unfinished product, which is called in Hebrew lo nigmara
Malachtoi.
malachta. Right, lo nigmara malachta. Is that what it says over here? Just says that most people will trample it. But that's another way of saying, right. Now we said already, ta'anim, in a normal place where people do eat it raw, it's a finished product. But if you personally want to make it into jam, then for you it's an unfinished product, like we saw before. The man who wanted to make it into jam, and he brought it into his chutzner, his children can see he's snacked from. That's what we said before. But now we're talking about a new kind of situation, right? It's somewhere in South Africa, out in the Transvaal or somewhere, where they don't eat raw figs over there. Most people turn into jam.
What's the boys?
All the boers.
Big one.
Cape Town is very good chocolate climate wine, good chocolate sweet wine. Gorgeous.
Ta'anim, fig
Yeah, climate
wine,
chocolate.
fig jam, fig Newtons.
I heard of that.
Chocolate sweet is a very good one. So it's not good chocolate sweet
Yeah.
wine.
Is it figs?
Grapes.
Grapes.
All right, let's figure this out. All right. So we're in a situation somewhere in the Transvaal where they what? These farmers have a minhag.
Next. Farmers will not do that. The sponsors will drink.
They've all decided to change their figs into jam because they all got together and they made a committee, and they realized that if they all band together, then they can make a lot more money selling it as jam. So in this area, they all jam. They're all jam. Okay, so now he has a raw fig from that area. He went to on the side of the road. Someone was selling fruit on the side of the road, one of those little fruit stands, fruit and vegetables. And he stopped his car to daven mincha. And then he looked over, and the boer was selling a few figs. So he decided to buy some figs. But he knows in that area, most people make jam out of their figs. So is he chayiv and meiser? First of all, in Transvaal, it's not chayiv and meiser. Maybe the Galil. Let's talk about the Galil rather, right? So truly, if you bought from a fellow on the side of the road in the Galil some figs, would it be chayiv and meiser, or you could just pop it into your mouth and then jump into your car and finish the ride?
No.
What?
I mean, if you trample it, take it into jam, it's a finished product.
But let's say most people in that area do. Right? Most people in that area make it into jam.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, what does it depend on
Who are you speaking to?
as far as
Speak to
which rabbi you mean?
Yochanan, yeah. And you're not chayiv ma'aser because it's an incomplete product. And
Okay.
he's keneged, he's against the opinion of
We haven't seen another opinion now. This section is different than the other ones. We're not jumping right into who argues with him. We're first starting with a Bryce or a Mishnah that agrees with him. So we're now reading a Bryce or a Mishnah that is going to say like him.
not chayiv ma'aser.
Okay. So what does it say? So he bought these ta'anim from an Amaris, meaning we don't assume he meisered it yet. But the general area, people make it into jam in that area. So the fig that he's holding in his hand, he has to assume is an unfinished product. Is he allowed to eat a snack from this?
Yes.
Says the Mishnah, Ochel mehem arai. You're allowed to eat from these figs that you just bought a snack. And an afterthought is, but by the way, of course, at some point in the future you will have to meiser them. Right? Not if you've eaten them already, but if you have the ones you haven't eaten, at some point you will have to meiser them, right? Let's say when you make them into jam or whatever. But when you do meiser them, do you meiser them as vadai or as safek? That's the question. Right? There's a bit of a difference whether you make the bracha or other differences between it, whether you are sure that it's chayv and meiser or not. So since we stipulated that you happen to buy this from an Amma Aretz, the truth is we have a rule: anything you buy from an Amma Aretz, even if you have to meiser it again, but it's a chumrah, so we call it midrabanan what? Demai, which stands for two Aramaic words, da, mai. This, what is it? As if to say, we're not sure, because it's coming from an Amma Aretz, whether he meisered it or not.
Yes.
And even though the Gemora says, Rov Amma Aretz do meiser, Rov, majority do, but the Rabbanan were mechayev us to act as if we're not sure.
It's called uncertainty.
Huh?
Uncertain thing.
In other words, even though the majority do take meiser, but the Rabbanan were worried about it, so they asked us to act as if it's unmeiser, at least a suffix unmeiser. So, therefore, I have to meiser it, but I won't meiser it in the same way. That's just an afterthought. Since I bought this from an Amma Aretz, in the end of the day, when I do meiser, right now it's not chayiv meiser. And when I do meiser it, I'm going to make sure meiser as demai and not as really chayiv, right?
So the meiser is the mai.
Yeah.
I want to say should the meiser is the mai?
When you do get around to meisering it, which right now you're not chayiv, we said. But later on, when it's a finished product, let's say, or if you decide to meiser it before the end, even though you didn't have to, but you decided to, when you do get around to doing it, you should do it as demai. That's what the Gemora says. Okay? So the Gemora says, right, and we already see what we were looking for, right? We were looking for a person to agree with Rabbi Yochanan in this case, that even though he did a mekach, but since it's unfinished fruit,
Lots of fun, yes.
lots of fruits, right? So here we're getting an opinion that agrees with Rabbi Yochanan. But the Gemora will again try to bring an opinion that disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan, just to show why he had to mention it. As we said with the other cases, he mentioned things that he knew there are people who oppose him, and he wanted to deal with it. Okay, but before we get to that, the Gemora says from this Mishnah or Beitsa, whatever it is, about buying tainim from an Amma Aretz, etc., Shema Mina Talas.
What's the last one?
3. Like the word shalosh. Right?
Yeah.
Let's read that section.
Okay, Shmona Tzalas. So from this we learn 3 things.
Right.
Shmamina Mekach, Eina Kavua,
Kova'at.
sorry, Eile Bedavar, Shenukna Malachto.
There you go.
Okay, so the first thing we learn is that Mekach, something that we
Purchase
is not Kavua, it's only Kavua.
doesn't make the fruit.
Chayiv Maisa, unless it's a finished product.
Right. So that's like saying what Rabbi Yochanan said, that it has to be a finished product. If it's not a finished product, even buying it doesn't make it chayiv.
Okay, then the second thing, Shmamina, Rov Ha'Ma'aretz Masrin Haim.
Right, this is the rule that I said before.
That most of them take off Meiser.
Right, now where's the proof of that? How do we see that? Because we said when you do Meiser it,
You take Meiser.
do it as a Demai Meiser.
It's Meiser.
Do it as like a
Meiser.
suffix.
Like it's a tenth of a tenth.
Well, that's Meiser Mina Meiser. That's what the Levi is supposed to give to the Kohen, Meiser Mina Meiser.
So what's the Meiser with something that maybe is been Meiser? What is the Meiser?
Meaning it's not for sure Meiser, so you'll deal with it differently, right? Some people say, for example, you need a pruta chamura. You need a pruta that's already been used for other products, to Meiser other products. If you do Meiser Sheni, for example. Meiser Sheni, we transfer the Kedusha to a coin. And then right before Shemitah, we take the coin to Yam HaMelech or destroy it in some way. So that only works if to transfer the Kedusha to a pruta chamura, a pruta that's already been used for vadai Meiseri. Right? So you have to have a pruta chamura. That's why some people are part of like an organization that puts aside a pruta chamura for them. You don't ever have to worry about that. But there's a few differences between when you meiser something as a vadai or when you're meisering something like this as a demai. So we're saying, if the Mishnah already said to meiser it as demai and not as regular meiser, that's an obvious indication that this Mishnah is telling you what? That most Amei Aretz meiser. Right? Because if you had to really worry about it, you wouldn't call it demai. You would just say you meiser it because it needs meiser. It's never been meisered before. No. You'd say meiser it is demai, that it could possibly have had meiser taken before. So if we said before, for example, you wouldn't make a bracha. Okay. The Shema Minah.
So the third thing, the Shema Minah, Asrin, the Mai, Mea Aretz, Haaretz, Afilu Devara Shalom Nigmar Malachto.
This third one's a bit more complicated. That what?
The Meiserin, the Mai.
We meiser demai. As we choose to meiser something as a demai, as a suffix, because maybe it was already meisered.
And even if it's an unfinished product.
Right.
So,
Meaning, even if it's unfinished, and what would you think about the unfinished product? Jack, what would you think? If it's unfinished, is it chayiv and meiser? We said no. We're going with the shita that no. So if it's not chayiv and meiser, do you think the Amma Aretz meisered it already? No. I would think, anyways, an Amma Aretz, I'm not sure if he ever meisers, right? Because that's why we have this problem with Amma Aretz. Many of them didn't meiser. But even if he was going to meiser, do you think he'd meiser early, before it's even chayiv? Right? That's like saying, someone who's not even from, but he's going to be extra mahader in Kiddush or something. You know, the truth is sometimes you do find that, right? You find people who don't do this, and they compensate by doing something else more. But again, this guy's not into meisering, I would think, so therefore, I don't expect him to meiser it early, before it's even chayiv. But what are we saying over here? No, even though this fruit is not finished product. And what about unfinished product? Not chayiv and meiser yet. And I'm buying that from the Amma Aretz. Do I assume he took meiser already? Yes. Yes. Because when I meiser this, I'm going to meiser as demai. Which means there is a suffix that he took meiser already. Yeah. It said in the Mishnah, we're talking about he bought it from an Amma Aretz. So he bought it from Amma Aretz, something that wasn't finished, that we just told you is not chayiv and meiser. And he bought it from Amma Aretz, who anyways, a bit harky-parky, we don't know what he did. But we say most do, but some don't. So now would I assume this type of stuff that hasn't even become chayiv yet, he went ahead and meisered it? Yes, obviously I would. Because on the side, and I'm going to say he does meiser, because I'm not saying he for sure didn't meiser. To my means it's like a suffix midrabanan. Right? And we even said most do. Most Meiser, but still the Rabbana came along and said, "Oh no, most people do Meiser, most Amoritz, but go ahead and take an extra one, be a bit more machmir, right? In case he didn't." But we're saying even to the extent that I'm going to suppose he did Meiser it, even before it became Chayiv, even when it wasn't yet Chayiv, right? Because he wants to do the right thing. Okay, so that last one is a much bigger Kiddush, but that's what the Gemora says. That's inherent in the words of this Mishnah, because the Mishnah said, you bought it from an Amma Aretz, it's not yet a finished product, you can eat from it a snack because it's not yet Chayiv, but when you do get around to Meisering it, do it as the Mai, which shows you that we look at it as if you might really have done it, and even though it wasn't yet Chayiv. Okay. So let's continue on. So all of that were three things we learned from this Mishnah. One of them was exactly what Rabbi Yochanan had told us, that if it's an unfinished product, it's not Chayiv and Meiser, even if you did a Mekach on it, even if you did a purchase on it, you bought it from the guy for money, which that gives it a lot of importance, but not enough to be Chayiv and Meiser. So we see, like Rabbi Yochanan, right, Sruli?
Yes.
But now the question is, let's get back to the nitty-gritty. Why did Rabbi Yochanan mention it? Why would he mention these four things we said?
To show you that even though I hold it concept for most of it,
Other opinions, right? To show you I know about all the other opinions, and I'm choosing to go against them. So in this case, we haven't done that yet. We haven't shown you the opinion he was trying to uproot. So that still remains, and that's the last job of the Gemora before we finish the parak. What opinion was he coming la'afuke, to reject, as it were? The answer is la'afuke meha. Rabbi Yochanan was trying to tell you that it's not like the following Mishnah, that the halacha is not like the following Mishnah, which is going to be a big question. Well, no, ha means this. In this context, at least sometimes.
But when he rejects all these proofs, he says it's not like the following Mishnah.
Following proofs? What proofs?
He rejects all other opinions.
He's telling you he holds like an opinion that's against certain other opinions. And in this case, the one he's against is the following.
He holds what others are against.
He holds not like the following opinion in this case.
Is this with Mahai, female?
No, it's a pronoun. It's a pronoun. This. The word zeh. It's like the word zeh. I don't think there is an equivalent of that. No.
No, I was just thinking if it's
Sorry.
I was thinking that this. I was thinking that if it is female, then more likely to push away the Mishnah rather than the
Well, again, it's almost Rabbi Yochanan speaking, so I don't know, he's telling you, I said what I said, to tell you we don't pass him like the following. It's whoever is either Rabbi Yochanan himself or representing Rabbi Yochanan to try to explain why he had to mention that Mekach doesn't help, because there is this one opinion that Mekach does help. So he's saying when he said what he said, it was to distinguish himself from this following opinion. Okay, so let's see that Mishnah. Jack, do you want to try it? 4 lines from the bottom to Tsama.
Okay, this man, Machlif, Teirot, in Chaveiro. He switches food with his chaver.
Right, so let's say I grew, figs and you grew grapes.
Switches. It's a switch. In Chaveiro, Zeh le'achol, Zeh le'achol.
So let's say one possibility is
Both eat.
I want to eat, you want to eat, I'm sick and tired of figs. It's coming out of my ears. Can you take some of my figs and give me some grapes?
Zeh li'ktzot, Zeh li'ktzot. Li'ktzot, I guess, is to make jam.
Right.
So this is to make jam, the other is to make jam.
So even if they're both interested in making jam, which means both of them look at it as if it's an unfinished product.
This will render the new kosher food not kosher. What can be done in such a case? So the first thing you must do is, as the telegram from Sprinzer, from Pins.
Who are we listening to?
Beitsa from Prince.
It sounds like
Y. Jacobson.
Oh, my sister loves him.
phenomenal lecture.
Yeah. I think she even went to a Shabbos meal of his maybe or something. I don't know. She told me she got a little bit closer to him. I think I saw him speaking once on YouTube. Alright, so
So Zelachol, this is the eat.
one person, meaning this guy, meaning there's two people making a swap. So this person, his intention was to eat whatever he gets. This person, his intention was to eat whatever he gets. Or each one had the intention for whatever he's going to swapping to get to make it into gem. That's the second option. And the third option is
this is the eat and this is
this
the
guy.
This guy.
This guy did it for the sake of eating, whereas the other guy that he's swapping with, he's swapping it for the sake of jam. So basically, what are these? All these eatings and jam. What do they all represent, Surely?
All readings represent the two parts of the Moshe.
If I'm buying it for eating, that shows that what I look at this fruit as. But if I'm buying it for jam, then it shows I look at this fruit as unfinished. And if it's this guy is doing it for eating, this guy's doing it for jam, at least one of them is dealing with unfinished, and the other one is a finished. So basically, what's the Mishnah saying? It doesn't matter what their kavanas are. Whether they're looking at this fruit as a finished product, whether they're looking at this fruit as an unfinished product, whether one of them is looking at it this way, one of them is looking at it that way, basically, it doesn't matter. Whatever their kavanas are, however they're looking at this fruit, finished, unfinished, whatever, chayiv. Which means that it's a bit of a mystery. Why would it be chayiv if it's an unfinished product? Everybody knows the rule that it has to be an unfinished product. And it also makes it sound like they bought it like sort of on the way. Like we met each other on the road. So it's not inside someone's chutzner. It's not inside someone's storage unit. It's not inside someone's store even. We're making a swap, I meet you on the road. You have some bad stuff. Sweet shoe. I heard that's good stuff, man. Right?
Speaking of fruit,
poutine on the road.
So, why, if this is in a situation like that, would it be chayiv and meiser? Must be this Tana holds.
This is rejecting Yochanan, right?
No, Rabbi Yochanan rejected it.
He was
Rabbi Yochanan came after the Mishnah. This is a Mishnah.
Sorry.
So he must have rejected this Tana who holds what? What is this Tana obviously holding?
Whether unfinished or finished is chayiv.
Yeah,
How is it chayiv? What made it chayiv? We have a rule. It has to be finished. What happened to that rule?
What would you buy it for?
So what normally overcomes it? What can overcome unfinished?
Shabbos.
It's not Shabbos in this Mishnah. It's not Chatzar in this Mishnah. The last thing Rabbi Yochanan mentioned. What was the last thing Rabbi Yochanan mentioned?
So,
Mekach. Purchase. Is there a purchase going on in this Mishnah?
No, it's a swap.
Is a swap a purchase?
A barter or something.
Yes, that's the most basic form of purchase before they came up with money. Bartering, right? They still do that in many localities around the world. Right? Not in Walgreens, but
not everything goes on Walgreens.
maybe somewhere in the St. Gas. Yeah, out in the Boers, where the Boers, they're doing bartering out there, right?
Correct.
They don't want to wait for the guy to come around in his truck every 2 weeks selling dry goods and stuff. They're into bartering. So, is that called a mekach?
Yeah.
Purchase? Yes. Right? So we have a shita here in this Mishnah of a Tana who holds what? That because we have in this Mishnah what?
exchange,
An
right?
exchange, which is a mekach, which is a type of a purchase.
It doesn't have to be.
That overcame the chisaron, that overcame the drawback of it being an unfinished product. And where do we see it principally? When they're both buying it to make into jam. So I'm buying from you figs to make into jam, you're buying from me figs. So we both have figs that are unfinished. And yet, suddenly they're chayiv. What made that happen? The purchase itself. The very fact that we did a purchase on this, it makes it chayiv. And that's what the Gemora said. Rabbi Yochanan wanted you to know that he's aware of this Mishnah, of course. That's not even such a big chiddush, because every Amora knew every Mishnah. There's no question. But still, he's saying, I know about that opinion, and still I'm going against that opinion. He's siding with the other Beitsa or Mishnah that we had, right? Where you buy from an Amaretz, blah, 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 and it said that you can still eat from it a snack. So here would be a major question. If the other one was a Mishnah, you have a Mishnah against the Mishnah. Why should you choose one over the other? But if the other one was a Beitsa, it's even a harsher question. You have a Mishnah saying Mekach is Mechayiv, and you have the other Beitsa which said that Mekach is not Mechayiv, Meiser. Why would Rabbi Yochanan have gone like that? Not clear. If the other one's a Beitsa, it's much harder to understand. Okay. That's why it's better, in my opinion, to say it's a Mishnah, as some do, as Rashi seems to as well. At least then you have a Mishnah against a Mishnah, and you can say he passed like one Mishnah over another. Because it conformed to his principle, right? Rabbi Yochanan says he sees a principle that if something's an unfinished product, nothing can help. Shabbos doesn't help, Chatzar doesn't help, and even Mekach can't help. That would conform with this principle. It's a little bit better. Both are Mishnayos, you can say his principle sort of tip the scale. Alright, anyhow, so we have a Mishnah here which seems to say what? That a Mekach does make things chayiv if it's an unfinished product. Right? Mekach is chashuv enough. But Rabbi Huda Oimer, that if their kavanah was what? To eat,
It's chayav.
then it is chayiv and meiser.
If it's making jam, it's potter.
Right. Which means that it's exactly like Rabbi Yochanan said. Because if you buy it to eat, you're buying a finished product. And it's chayiv. If you're buying it just to make it to jam, then it's an unfinished product.
So this is opposite what you said, Rabbi Yochanan.
This is exactly what Rabbi Yochanan said. So he would be going like Rabbi Yehuda. Again, if I just had this Mishnah, I would wonder, because it looks like the first opinion is the Tana Kama with no name attached. Sounds like the Chachamim's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda sounds like an individual against the Chachamim who has a right to his opinion, but in terms of halacha, I wouldn't think we'd go like that. So maybe that's why we needed the other Mishnah or Beitsa, because to tip the scale in favor of Rabbi Yehuda.
So then the statement earlier, the three things that we learn from this Mishnah. First one is that we learn that if it's complete, then we apply it, right?
That what?
We take Ma'aser of
Shema Minah, the question of the three
Yeah.
Shema Minahs.
Yeah.
The first one was if it's incomplete,
it.
it's not Chayiv and Meiser.
If it's incomplete, it's not like Ma'aser. And here it's the opposite.
Yeah. According to
Rabbi Yehuda.
the Tana Kama. No, Rabbi Yehuda is saying, if you bought it to eat, then it's a finished product, it's Chayiv. If you bought it to make jam, then it's an unfinished product, and it's Pater.
Okay. So that's the same as the first Shema
What?
Minah. That's like the first Shema Minah.
Yeah. If that Shema Minah was going on a separate Mishnah or separate Beitsa, and that's what we originally brought to support Rabbi Yochanan. So for whatever reason, we didn't want to bring right away the dissenting opinion. We first wanted to bring a supporting opinion to Rabbi Yochanan, and then we showed you at the very end what the dissenting opinion is. This way, I guess we've already tipped the scale in favor of Rabbi Yochanan. Whereas if I guess we saw this Mishnah first, we would assume the Tanna Kama was the Chachamim, and that's the majority opinion, and we would be bothered by how can Rabbi Yochanan have gone against the majority opinion. In any event, okay. So, you want to see the Rashis before we say the Hadran?
Yeah.
So, Rabbi Yehuda is Gemora?
No, it's a Tanna
It's always
Kama.
spent in the
Rabbi
spirit.
Yochanan is
There is a
Tama.
Rav Yehuda who's a Gemora.
This
But
Rabbi
Rebbe Yehuda is
Tama.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Yochanan is
an Amora.
Gemora.
So we're saying when he paskined, he knew about this Mishnah, obviously, and he chose to go like, say, Rebbe Yehuda, and not like the Tanna Kama. Which begs the question, why would he go against the Tanna Kama? It looks like it's the majority opinion. That's usually how we approach a Mishnah. The first opinion, if there's no name attached, is the Chachamim, the majority opinion. The second time has a name attached is an individual opinion, which would usually mean us like the majority. So I think that's why the Gemora brought before another Mishnah or Beitsa, whichever you'll say it is, to tip the scale, to show you what Rabbi Yochanan was relying on. Okay, should we see the Rashis first, before we say our Hadran?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a number of Rashis on this. The first one would be the second, actually way up at the wider lines of Rashi, second wide line of the top of the page of Rashi, at the very end. Lokech te'eni mi'ama aretz, Makam Sharov B'nei Adam Dorsi. Okay, who would like to read the Rashi? It's really, go for it.
לקח תעניין מעם הארץ, מדובר ספיקס עם העם הארץ, מקום שלא בני אדם דורסים. First, most people trample on the Sphinx. שלא בני המקום עושים תעניין. Concise. Most of these people make it into jam.
Right.
The oisim gula.
Gula is the round containers, right? That's where they press them in. They press them into those round containers. That's where they reach their final jam status. Where are you reading from now? Havli. They are what? Stam Ta'anim.
Regular things.
In that place, we will say Stam Ta'anim are. Right.
Unfinished product.
Right. So we already had incorporated this into our understanding that if it's a place where most people make it into jam, then that in that place, Ta'anim, regular Ta'anim that are not yet processed are still called Lo Nigma. Okay, Weiter. So the first Mishnah or Beitsa that we saw said if you buy from Aretz, then you could still be Oichel Mehem Arai. You could still eat it as a snack. Because this Beitsa or Mishnah holds that what? A Mekach
It's something that's
will not fix it into a situation of being Chayiv and Meiser. If it's an unfinished product. And Rashi adds in an interesting point, the Kulhu in all of these cases that we're talking about, in all cases that have not yet been brought into the main storage facility. So apparently if you bring the main storage facility, then we don't need to talk about all these other factors. In any event, so then it goes on to say Maisran Damai. When you do get around to Maisring them, you have to consider them Damai, possibly Maisered. When you want to do it, when he comes to do it, means when he wants to do it finally.
Maisran Damai.
Yeah, he has to Maiser them as if they're Damai. Kedin, like the halacha concerning Be'ama Aretz. Like anybody else who bought from an Amma Aretz. Now, this is no different than any case that we have talked about where you buy from an Amma Aretz, you have to meiser it out of like Suffolk. So Rashi, and that's the Chiddush, that in this place, I would have thought you could maybe forget about that rule. Why? First of all, you don't need to take Truma. Because Lo Chashidi Allah. Nama Aretz is not suspected at all of not taking Truma. Why? Because he knows Truma is Chayiv Misa B'dei Shemayim. So he doesn't mess around with that. Right? It's like playing with poison. Playing with fire. Okay? Below Amrinan. And funnily enough, these ones, we don't say for sure he didn't meiser them. Why? Because I might have thought Kodem Gemar Malacha Lo Asrinu Amaretz. I would think, I generally have a question if an Amaretz Meiser. Certainly before they were Nigmar Malachto and they weren't even Chayiv and Meiser, I would think for sure he doesn't Meiser. We don't say that. Because what? The Kasavar Haitana. There are some, like we said, Rov Amaretz do take Meiser. But that's of those Rovs, some of them actually do take it even before the Gemar Malacha. They're frumies. Right? So it just shows you it's a group that you generally have to worry about, Amaretz. Chazal told you to worry about it, to Meiser it out of Chumrah. But when it really comes down to it, we say, Rov Amaretz Meiser. And you know what? Of that Rov that Meiser, a lot of them do it even before Nigmar Malachta.
Rov Amaretz take Meiser after Nigmar Malachta?
It says, Rov Amei Aretz, the truth of the matter is, do take Meiser at some point or the other. I would have thought after it becomes Chayav, but it turns out from this, a lot of them do it even before. But Rashi makes it clear, not everybody holds that way. This Tana holds that of the Rov Amaretz who really do Meiser, a lot of them do it even before Nigmar Malachta. That's what this Tana holds. And he calls it a Mida. Mida Hanohegis Hi. Very interesting extra few words that Rashi throws in there. It's a Mida which is Noheg. Like it's a good Mida. It's a good Mida that the Amma Aretz take on, right? Like you find sometimes, even when Amma Aretz has certain derech eretz that other people don't have, right? And sometimes you walk into someone's house and everyone's well-mannered and you're like, wow, I wish they would act that way in my house. Right? Sometimes they have certain things that they're noheg, good midos that surpass yours, right? And you thought you were better than these guys. They're better than you in some ways, right? It's a word to the wise, not to judge people, right? Even the Chazal told you have to be machmir to meiser their stuff. But the truth of the matter is, Rov of them do meiser, and this Tana is saying they act according to a good midah of doing it before. Right? Just like sort of like first things first. I have fruit. It's like some people I heard meiser their money right away. They don't wait till like the end and make a cheshbon. No, they have money right away meiser. I heard about that once. A guy was having some kind of a meeting for Yeshiva or something. Some guy came in, handed them a check for like, I don't know, whatever it was, $25,000, and just walked out. He didn't know who this guy was. Like, he figured out that the guy must have been in town for some kind of business meeting. The business meeting went well. He made $250,000 on that geschäft. Right away. He didn't want to let it slide. He heard there was someone collecting for Yeshiva somewhere. He said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go do it right away. Took a check, walked in, and took care of it. And some people want to make sure it's done. They do it. It's a mida nohegis. It's a good mida that many people are accustomed to doing, to give it right away. It seems like this Amma Aretz also, this Tana holds that many of them are noheg, this good mida, that right away meisering their produce, even before it's finished product. Okay, interesting extra words in Rashi. V'talinan be lekula. This is interesting words in Rashi. Talinan means what?
Depending.
It can mean depending, but it can also mean to make a supposition. It's like you hang something on that possibility. That's like making a supposition that something happened. Right? You're saying, did such and such a thing occur? I'm going to suppose it did. right? So that's called being toile, to sort of hang it on that possibility.
It's like a chazaka.
What?
It's like a chazaka.
No. In this case, we're just supposing something might have happened. You know, you find that sometimes, let's say a woman finds something on her underwear, right, that could make her into a nida. But she said, but I was eating cherries today. But of course, I wasn't stuffing it down my underwear. But on the other hand, what do we say? Eating cherries, could have happened, right? So instead of supposing she's a nida, right, I'm going to suppose I'm going to be toilet it. I'm going to hang it on that possibility that it was a cherry, that one of the cherries she was eating, right? That we do sometimes, and that's called a kula. Sometimes you do a lakula. You say, if it's really true she was eating cherries, now I can be mekol and still have relations with this woman because she's not a nida. Do you know for sure that's true? I don't need to, right? Because there's a chazaka, by the way. There's a chazaka, she's tahor, and she didn't have a hargasha. So the only thing you have is a kesem, which the Rabbanan told you to be machmer on, but they said, we told you to be machmer, but you can be mekel if you have something to be told later on. Usually it's only in the Rabbanan. So let's say over here, did the Am Aretz Meiser? Normally we say we're not sure if they Meisered, you have to take Meiser. But we know the truth. The truth is that the Merov of them do. And so we're saying over here, did he Meiser before he even became Chayiv? We're going to say you could be Tola on that. You can depend on, suppose that happened. Like you're making it dependent, contingent on that he did it.
Why do we take Meiser B'Mayim?
Because it's a chumrah. The Chazal said, since some people don't, we want to make sure everybody Meiser is just out of habit. Make sure it always gets done. That in case there are people who don't do it, we made sure it got done anyways. The Rabbanim were machmer on certain things. There are places in halacha where the Rabbanim could have been mekel and rely on a rov or on a this or on a that. But the truth of the matter is, it's always best if you don't have to rely on a rov, because these things aren't like proven. It's a supposition itself. Rov, do I know if there's a rov? Do I know for sure this guy's from the rov? Maybe he's one of the guys, the majority, let's say, do. Meiser. Do I know this guy's from that majority? Maybe he's one of the minority guys, right? We're not talking about minority skin color. We're talking about minority of how you act. So I don't know how he acts. How do I know? So normally I would rely on the rov to tell me that I suppose he's from the rov. Why not? Right? That's how I'm allowed to rely on. With the rov, I'm allowed to rely on that. But the Rabbanan said, no, please don't rely on it in this case, right? So to rely on it is to act as if you know. You don't really know. And therefore, be machmir, right? When you can be machmir, in the case where you don't really know, it's always best. But they said, at the end of the day, we still know there's a rov, so then you can be mekel the other way as well. You can suppose he did that possible meisering that makes it demai, because it means we don't really know it wasn't meiser, we don't really know it was meiser. Somewhere in the middle. But you can rely on that possibility that it was meiser even before it was turned into chiyuv. Okay, we'll stop here.